listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, and in Europe on Radio X. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, we're X-Zone Radio TV. And if you'd like to find out what's going on in the X-Zone on our radio show, past, present, or future, visit us online at xzonerradio.com. My guest this hour is Craig Webb. We're going to be talking about dreams this hour. And first of all, Craig, welcome back to the X-Zone. Always great having you with us. And for those new members of the X-Zone Nation who may not have heard of you before, give them a little bit of an idea of who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, great to join you again, Rob. Always have lots of fun with you. Plus some insight, hopefully, for our listeners. Mini resume of, 30 years here of explorations, research, writing, teaching. I was either blessed or challenged to actually have a powerful near-drowning. I got stuck under a raft, whitewater rafting, when I was studying physics, so very objective. And then after that kind of strange event, almost, went face-to-face with death and really kind of breathed in this very rich peace around it. Surprised me. I thought I might be freaked out, but actually it was a very beautiful kind of event under the water there. I started remembering up to about 10 dreams a day.
Wow.
So not just one or two, up until the shower, but like long into the day and like 6, 10, and sometimes into following days. So a big opening. Then started having lucid dreams or dreams during which I knew I was dreaming, kind of like this virtual reality, infinite bandwidth, but still asleep. And then precog dreams, I could accurately pick up the future, and all kinds of strange things way outside of my physics training. So started me on a path of personal exploration, and then 7 years later, I guess, ended up on a path of professional exploration at the Stanford Lucid Dreaming Research, where it was actually scientifically proved it's possible to be conscious and awake while you're physically asleep. And then continued that with the Dreams Foundation to bring some of the helpful info to people, really make it practical. I like that when it can be really helpful for people.
Why do people dream?
Oh, that's a big one. Lots of reasons. One simple one, I think, is just entertainment. Same reason we watch movies, read, enjoy play. So we kind of have these movies every night. That's one simpler one, fun, I guess. When we're a little more conscious or lucid, we can actually choose some of the activities we dream about, or actually guide the dream during it, which is a nice little shift. A big one that's been proven scientifically in a number of different ways is learning.
Mm-hmm.
So we can certainly learn physical skills. Example, German Olympic ski team, the aerial ski team, actually practices maneuvers using lucid dreaming skills that they kind of intend before sleep, different maneuvers, etc. And then they try them out in dreams. And if they go well, I guess they try them out in life. And if they don't go so well, maybe they practice more. So skill rehearsal and mental skills too. Doctors practice operations and things. Sometimes it's conscious dreams, so people can guide them and they can learn skills. And sometimes we just intend before sleep, or dream incubation. So learning's a big one. Learning emotional skills is there all the time. That's the reason behind most nightmares. Trying to guide us to new emotional habits. A little hint there. So I guess another application is healing. Certainly kind of processing past trauma. So mental, emotional grieving or letting go or processing. And then learning new skills emotionally. That's a big one. Creativity, that's a huge one. I have a big new work coming out, creative work coming out, website, book, video, series, probably in the next couple of months, all about the creative aspect of dreaming. Artists, inventors, musicians, and really anybody if you generalize creativity. So,
all right, Craig, stand by. We've got to take our first break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Exo Nation, Craig Webb is our guest. www.applieddreaming.com. That's www.applieddreaming.com. The order of the day here in the X Zone tonight is dreaming. And you're listening to us from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Wilda Wiyeka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Wilda Wiyeka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Linnea Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information, and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com. Craig Webb is our guest this hour, Exonation. Here's the website, applydreaming.com. Craig, many people suffer from insomnia. How does insomnia fit into the realm of dreams? I mean, besides the fact that if you can't go to sleep, you can't dream.
Yeah, right. And also probably you're not getting the most out of your days either. Mm-hmm. Level of tiredness, energy is kind of low. Well, it plays in different ways. Some people are actually able, they won't use the phrase insomnia, but able to hold, let's say, conscious presence, some, or if, in very advanced cases, all through the night. And in fact, yogis or different meditators or, I guess, spiritual seekers actually have that as a goal. So it's not necessarily bad. It's just sort of what we're choosing and how we're doing it. So if we're peaceful, if we're in a profound state, and we're getting charged up in energy, great. Mm-hmm. It's not probably called insomnia in that case. But for, I guess, the majority of listeners here, it's usually more of a problem. It can be triggered by lots of things, so we can give a few little hints. Certainly, different things we eat. Chocolate can be a problem. The theobromine in chocolate kind of acts like a long-acting caffeine. That can be one. Or disturbing our sleep schedule when we travel. You ever notice that, Rob?
Yeah.
If you're on hotels and stuff, you'll sleep much lighter. Or if you change location, even just sleeping like in a different bed in the same house or on the couch and stuff, that can do it. So it's kind of a choice of, I guess, solidifying or just making a ritual of our sleep habits. And then other tips can be, I'll just give a certain breathing tip because most people don't know this. It's pretty simple and it can be super effective. So if you have insomnia, plus you want to get some pretty rich dreams, maybe even lucid dreams, you can just do this little simple breathing technique I almost came across by accident, and that is, as you're falling asleep, once you kind of cleared your mind as best you can, you'll take a deep in-breath and kind of hold it. So you're holding. And while you're holding, focus on different parts of your body, starting with feet. So you kind of put attention on feet, feel the covers, feel toes, still holding the breath, and then you let your breath out. And then right away, breathe back in. So you're only holding the inhalation and not the exhalation. And on the second breath, you'll move to your ankles, and then third breaths on your legs, knees, etc. And most people find by the time they even get to like their groin or let's say navel, they're actually fast asleep and they don't even remember doing the exercise. So it kind of helps from the biorhythm, the heart rate variabilities, parasympathetic nerve balance, a whole bunch of things, some yogic prana practices and things. Bottom line is it works to help you fall asleep and have a really rich, deep sleep too.
So what are some of the benefits of being more in touch with your dreams, Craig?
Yeah, well, I think we've all had some interesting dreams we remember during the day. Really, one of the benefits is when we can start to apply them practically from recall. I could just say that even your last question, Rob, was a good one. Even just a richer, deeper sleep could be good for benefiting our energy level and stuff. So a benefit might be facing nightmares or facing traumas or, I guess, removing recurring habits, emotional habits usually. That's why we have recurring nightmares. That'll benefit us in the daytime. A little bit of upset at night, but consciously addressed and shifted. Kind of we choose a new ending feeling, and then rehearse it before sleep if we have a recurring nightmare. That can help our daytime very practically. I can give a couple examples if you want.
Yeah, please.
But, example. Well, one of my favorites, actually I'll go with a new one today because we've shared the other one, Mimi, a few times. Interesting one that a little personal too, so offer my own life out to the audience here. I would have challenges, I guess, with different authority figures, maybe with my dad early on. I was a very creative soul and liked to do things my way. And so I had this recurring character, or let's say tough interactions with my father. And then one time I was lucky enough to be conscious in the dream, lucid, we say. I realized I was dreaming. I said, wait, I want to change this. And it turned out we were both in karate or judo outfits, I think, and about to have a really brutal fight, perhaps like to the death. And I said, no, and grabbed, I guess, my dream dad's hand in my dream. I said, no, we're not going to do it this way. I always end up, and I wake up upset, and we're fighting. This won't work for me. Let's do something different. And interestingly, you can't necessarily 100% control a dream. He just knocked off my hand and said, rah, come on, let's go. But then I really stood my ground assertive and said, no, and just kind of held him, and then eventually kind of hugged him. And then, we kind of made amends. We talked. We got through some tough things in the dream. And then at the end he said, you want to have a play fight? But from a whole different energy, we did fight and kind of flew against the wall, and I woke up laughing and such, and never had the dream scenario again where I was having a conflict with my dad. And in waking life, I actually get along pretty well with him these days. So healed some pretty important relationships. Example of solving a recurring dream and benefiting your life. Anything like that for you ever, Rob?
Nope. But I do hear a lot of people on the show who talk about communicating or meeting those who have passed in their dreams. Yeah. And, how do we give this any validity, or is it a psychological situation that they themselves are facing, or do they actually communicate with the dead?
Yeah, so almost a question of interpretation, because only the dreamer really gets the data, the dream, right? So after that fact, it's interpretation. I like things, I have my scientists alive and well. Remember I said I studied physics, so I didn't throw it out, I just added to it. But I keep the science in there. I like that. And I like it when there's something physically verifiable about it.
Sure.
It is actually one, if not the most common theme of dreaming with the deceased. And I don't believe every time that it's an actual visitation or a connection with the soul. Sometimes we're rehashing feelings that aren't resolved, unfinished business, or we were freaked out by a certain death, so it's almost like an emotional trauma rather than just unfinished business. So I don't think every scenario is the same. But I have seen a few cases where the deceased comes. Usually when it's a little more valid visitation, they'll offer some pretty important info or guidance. And then that the guidance they give in the dream, remember, it's just private to the dreamer. Nobody else had the experience. But plays out in waking life. Example, one dreamer said, and this person was a good dreamer, but their friend wasn't. They said the father of the friend had passed, and the dreamer met the father, and he said, well, unfortunately your friend doesn't believe in the afterlife and that I'm still here, and that's why they're grieving and so upset. Could you tell them to go and move the tree in the backyard that's fallen over and just make a little wood pile from it? And they said, that's all? I said, yeah, that's good. And so, they kind of woke up with this mission. Oh, well, I guess, however I diplomatically can, I'll mention that I dreamt their father and check in about a tree that I have no idea about in my conscious life, but maybe there is one in the backyard, maybe it needs to be chopped up. So they spoke to their friend and said, well, here's what happened. Any connections? And they said, no. And unfortunately, at that moment, there was a lot of doubt. But 2 days later, this tree that had been there for 30 years fell over, and it was kind of lying on the power line, so they had to chop it up into little bits. And we can't say that the person was fully converted, but a pretty rare event happened that helped the disbeliever in the afterlife and visitations trust. It might have been a valid contact.
How do scientists like yourself explain that certain people can have dreams and bring back information from a dream state that there is no possible way whatsoever that they, prior to having this dream, could have had knowledge of this fact?
Yeah, you kind of hit on one of my real fascinations. It bridges into, just like the teleclasses I often guide, or what I write about, I call lucid living. So how do we bridge the info? It's inside info, really the dreamer alone, for most dreams. Just the dreamer gets it. How do we bridge that back into life? Sometimes it's just something creative, and so it might be symbolic, and we make a new artwork, or we shift a behavior, or we speak to somebody at work, or in this case, we tell a friend, a dreamer. But it gets super interesting when they can tune into information at a distance, remote viewing, or I guess we could say clairvoyance, if you like that word. Or information across time, too. How do we tune into something that's ahead in the future, like this tree that we just spoke about? Or something distant past. Example, there's this TV series, or I guess a TV special. Have you heard of Yesterday's Children, Rob?
No, I haven't.
It's a pretty good one, actually. Jane Seymour is the star. And I think people can get it on eBay or maybe on Netflix, I'm not sure. It's a little bit old. It was a TV special.
Sure.
But it's all about a woman who accurately dreamed about her children, and then the dreams came enough and enough, and she went and visited Scotland. But the children turned out to be old people. She accurately followed a street name and met the children, and it turns out that their mom had died in a really disastrous accident and promised that she'd come back and see them. And they started to guess and feel that because she knew the street name, the house, and a lot of the details of the mother's life, maybe that was the mother who somehow returned. So we can get info across time also. It's strange. I mean, I have my models for it, but even still, it's a little bit out there.
So tell me, in your opinion, is there a connection between dreams and reincarnation?
Well, that's one anecdotal example that proves it, definitely. My feeling is yes. As we can kind of dream across time, why couldn't we dream, let's say, to a future life, a past life, if such things exist? Or tune into all the probable realities, including some aspect of me, the larger me that exists as somebody else, but that actually has valuable info. A lesson learned by that part of me that can guide me now, or vice versa, something that I've learned I can send to them. That's where I get interesting. But I've seen enough experiences. I guess I go by statistics also, where people have semi-provable things about, let's say, past or future lives that they can track, and very rare events that they got info in a dream about, and seems to be connected sometimes with physical locations, like very, agreed-upon group events, and sometimes more subjective things like people's memories and things. And that's helped me trust as a scientist, just as statistics, I guess.
All right, Craig, stand by. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation Craig Webb is our guest. And interesting topic, dreams. This hour here in the X Zone, if you'd like to find out more about Craig, visit his website, applieddreaming.com. That's www.applieddreaming.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I always look forward to your emails, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And once again, you can find us everywhere online in every social media network just by typing in X Zone Radio TV. Craig West is my guest. Craig Webb is my guest. Craig West is my producer. Confusing with these two guys, I'll tell you that. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Thomas Jefferson was a Burgess of 27 when he met Martha Wales Skelton, a 22-year-old widowed heiress who was fondly called Patty by her family. They were married on January the 1st, 1772, and they took up residence in a cabin on the building site on top of a Virginia mountain that Thomas had named Monticello. As Thomas and Patty slowly built their first version of the great house at Monticello, the Revolutionary War was heating up. Patty, with difficulty, bore 5 children, but only 2 girls survived. Thomas's political career developed to the point where he was often away from home, but after he authored and signed the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia, he resolved never again to leave his wife. He was elected the governor of Virginia, just as that state became the Revolution's last battleground. The Revolutionary War ended in 1781, and Thomas gladly retired altogether to my family, my farm, and my books. But Patty continued to want to bear her treasured husband a son, and late in the summer of 1782, she died of kidney failure at the age of 33, 4 months after having borne yet another girl. Thomas was so devastated by her death that he never remarried. He mourned her for the rest of his life, even as he helped to frame the peace in France and then became the first Secretary of State, the second Vice President, and the third President of the United States. This story is true. Thomas Jefferson was such an obsessive letter writer and record keeper that we know where he was and what he was doing nearly every day of his adult life. Every significant thing he says in My Thomas comes from his contemporary writings. My Thomas by Roberta Grimes is now available at Barnes & Noble, Costco, Target, Books A Million, Hudson Booksellers, Kmart, Walmart, Sam's Club, Walgreens, CVS, and online at Amazon.com. You can visit Roberta Grimes online at www.robertagrimes.com.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State-certified occupational school, training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerrean intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Annie Callahan, dedicated to negotiating a position for Earth within the Daguerrean Coalition, had trained for 3 years to become an Earth ambassador. Yet, the very eve of her arrival at the capital ruling planet, she is claimed as destined mate to an oversized, mating-maddened vamp who swears he will never release her. Lord Aztaran, king of the Macian sector, has waited over 900 years for his destined mate. Having found her as an alpha vamp, he is unable to relinquish Annie, virtually holding her hostage until he can claim her. Yet Macians cannot survive without their mate's love. How could he strip her of her citizenship, her ambassadorship, and her freedom and expect to win her heart? With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is the latest book in this exciting series, The Daguerrean Chronicles, guaranteed to keep readers coming back for more. With All That I Am by Kahira O'Donnell is available on Amazon.com and KahiraO'Donnell.com. Welcome back, everyone. Craig Webb is our special guest. His website is applieddreaming.com. And as you probably guessed by Craig's website, we're talking about dreams and dreaming this hour here in the X-Zone. Craig, how does it ever happen when the dreams, which we can't call them reality, what can we call dreams? Is it possible that they can cross over into the realm of reality?
Maybe we should have a new word for these halfway state experiences. I sort of call it lucid living when it bridges both states, but I haven't really created a phrase for, let's say, halfway experiences or borderland, twilight experiences, the X zone. Maybe that's the word.
There you go.
I had an interesting one that kind of shows, I think, the whole gamut, because really I see it as a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of a quick little, my cosmology of the physics of what happens. There's some kind of certain impetus, we could call it, or let's say consciousness or an intention or some invisible thing that we exist or starts through will, let's say. And then when it gets enough energy and has enough charm, it starts to bridge across what I call the perceptual event horizon. It's a fancy phrase to say that it goes from thinking into our physical senses, into our experience. Sometimes it stops in our dreams on the way. Sometimes we tune to dreams and then we see it ahead of when it comes in physical life. So there might be a step there, but it usually goes something like dream to thought, to speech, and then to physical events. Sometimes it skips a few steps. But there's sort of a spectrum there of, let's say, manifestation or concretization or something. And then if it had a lot of charm originally, it might become a mass event. It might reach a lot of people, that original intention or the original dream. Here's an example. I was up at the cottage helping two friends who had a really terrible miscarriage of their baby.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, it had to do with giving them tuberculosis shots, and not a miscarriage, let's say a crib death.
Yes.
So a really serious trauma, but we moved through it, and then just that night, or that afternoon, my friend, his name's Mark, he spots a bat flying around. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess once in a while there's a bat here, because it was a family cottage.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't freak out too much, but we couldn't find it. We looked all around. But I realized, that was what was bugging me in the middle of the night a few, I guess, days ago. It was a bat just kind of flying around in the night, and I guess they can see CO2 in different temperatures, so sniffing my breath and maybe trying to, lock in and have a little nibble or something. And I just kind of tuned into bat. Didn't think too much about it until I started remembering about 6 to 12 months before I'd had a powerful lucid dream with Dracula, the character we know from the story. And it was a very strong energy, I guess, even though I was conscious and lucid in the dream. I wasn't really ready to integrate fully, like a ton of fear. And so I said, well, I think I'm just going to wake up now, and maybe I'll come and we'll work something out, and I'll integrate you later, Drac. And he said, as if you could really get away, as I was waking up, which I thought was a little macabre, but it's true. If it's in my psyche, it's in my dreams, you can get away. But I didn't really know what he could, or what that energy could do, because shortly after, jumping back 6 months ahead and seeing the bat, the phone rings, and it's this guy who has a strong Russian sort of Transylvania kind of accent, and says, hello, I would like to talk to you about lucid dreaming. And I'm like, wait a minute, who is this? I thought maybe a friend or two that I've told about it is joking. No, it's true. My name is Vlad, which I don't know if you know. That's the actual name of the character in the Dracula.
Right. Yeah.
So my name is Vlad, and he said he's from Radio Free Europe, and he wants to do an interview about dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so after I checked him out a little bit, I was like, okay, wow, is it possible that like a dream character can come into life afterwards as a bat, and then somebody interviewed me about lucid dreaming? I don't know.
Well, isn't that part of a precognitive dream?
Well, perhaps, but then shortly after that, I was in California. I saw a bat in a gold mine that I was hiking in during this conference, and made my presentation the next day, not really thinking about any of these things I've just told you, about a month later, I guess, or a few weeks later. And then all of a sudden this slide with Dracula that I'd made up about the original dream appears in my presentation that I hadn't chosen at all. You could say, oh, well, I slipped and somehow it got in there. But a strange event that I found out in that exact talk, there was the son of a woman I ended up sort of working on a TV project with, whose name was Byron. And Byron had the exact same birthday as, I guess, Lord Byron, who was the one who originally inspired Le Vampire, Dr. Colradi was at a little campfire with Lord Byron, and Lord Byron says, "Hey, let's all write a ghost story." And so Byron wrote Le Vampire, or Colradi wrote Le Vampire, and actually Frankenstein came from that same campfire, the original story by Mary Shelley.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, he's got the same birthday as Lord Byron, and his name is Byron, and my Dracula slide appeared. And then, there just continued to be all these, we call it synchronicity maybe. But I thought, I could actually just expand into wonder. I could try to analyze it, figure it, understand, put a model, a framework. But actually it just started becoming magical and wonderful, and I felt kind of a joy about it, because it wasn't anything too threatening. So I guess that was my final, quote-unquote, interpretation. But I do have models for kind of how things become physical, from dreams into thought, sometimes magically into events without choosing to do it. They just appear, etc. Lots of examples if you want them.
How do artists use dreams? Now, you're a musician yourself. Do you find that you use your dream state to create music that when you wake up and get back into this so-called world of reality, that you're able to follow your dreams and create music?
Yeah, and when I'm, dedicated, it takes some will. It takes some discipline, too. I'll actually stay up in the middle of the night or work on it first thing and blow off whatever my priorities were that day if it feels like an important piece of music or a song line, or sometimes an action item, like email this conference host about presenting or performing. So it's not always just creative, but creative, let's say, event. And so for me, it can be creative. I definitely get musical inspirations. More often than not, I just kind of get the hook of a song, like a few notes, a melodic phrase, an idea, and a feeling, of course. Once in a while, I get a pretty long one. There's this interesting, actually, region in the brain called the phonological loop. You ever heard of that?
No.
Can you repeat the name of it?
Chronological loop?
Oh, pretty close. Phonological.
Phonological.
Phono. And I'm just sort of fooling with you here.
But
to be able to say it again, we got an interesting synchronicity with chronos there. But to be able to say it again, you actually use the phonological loop of remembering about the last 10 or 15 seconds of sound. And so I think that brain mechanism's involved in the music I remember. But there's some pretty famous musicians out there who use it for other pretty important things. In fact, life and death. You want to hear an interesting story about Leonard Skinner?
Yeah, I'd love to, sure.
Well, they obviously got some pretty great hits and were doing very well. And they had two backup singers, and they said to the backup singers, we're going to just go on our own for a little while here, 6-month hiatus. And all of a sudden, one of the backup singers, JoJo Billingsley, gets a call from Ronnie Van Zant, who was kind of head honcho of Leonard Skinner, and says, we have a concert tomorrow. We'd love to have you guys again. Great sound. We really need the backup singers. It's in New Orleans. Will you fly down? So phone call. And right during the call, she gets a really strong, not now, not yet, or something, kind of a hit. And she says, well, let me think about it, and maybe I'll meet you for the next show, but I'm not going to commit for tomorrow. Besides, it's kind of soon anyways, just to fly there. So that night, she has a terrible nightmare of the whole band on the band jet, the plane, crashing, and all kinds of unfortunate, like, destruction, blood, and, macabre scene, let's say. And she wakes up in a serious fright, almost screaming. And her mother was there, actually. She was just staying over at her parents' house at that time, and she said, it's just a crazy dream. Just let it go. Don't worry. But when you've had one of these, you don't just let it go.
Sure.
So she phoned them the next day and said, hey, Ronnie and team, I had this dream. It's really freaky. I know it's just a dream, but really, don't get on the plane. Please don't. Please don't. I would hate to see it come true. Is there any way you can take a bus or delay it or anything? So they were a little freaked out, and they actually took a band vote. This is recorded. People can search it up. They took a vote in the band, should we do it? And eventually they decided, we'll take one last flight. And unfortunately, that was the last flight for about 20 of the 26 people on the plane.
Oh, my gosh.
Because just as she tuned in, it actually died. So sometimes these guidance dreams about continuing the art can be life and death. And there's lots of other very interesting connections around that event. Actually, a crew, the crew that actually saved about 5 or 6 of the passengers, had done an exact replica of the saving maneuver on the exact same jet with 25 instead of 26 people 2 weeks before in the same area. And they were all prepared and all rehearsed. So some interesting timing, I guess, synchronicities there. Maybe people are helped intuitively or protected or something.
Craig, what about the old hag syndrome or sleep paralysis? A lot of people who claim to have either gone through an alien abduction or just prior to an alien abduction occurring, they report that their body, they're conscious, but they can't move. Now, you and I have talked many times over the years, and, you know, I myself have experienced sleep paralysis. But because I have talked to you, I wake up, I try and move, and I say, oh, sleep paralysis, this is cool.
When have I ever been more relaxed?
Yeah. You know,
I'm in bed and I'm paralyzed.
All right. You know, I've had a few dates like that in my time. But anyway.
And so what was your experience when you kind of shifted mental gear instead of, oh my gosh, I can't move? You shifted into, oh, hey, this isn't so bad.
Well, it was really strange because as soon as I recognized what was going on, I wasn't paralyzed anymore.
And that's a pretty common experience.
Yeah.
Strange, huh?
Like
so
I didn't
almost
see...
like the fear frees your muscle synapses or something,
right?
or lack of fear frees you up.
Like I didn't see any extraterrestrials walking through the walls. I didn't see any beams of light. You know, like it was... Okay, sleep paralysis. I've had this before, and as soon as you recognize it, poof, it's like that little hormone is released, and it's, all right, get back on with life.
Yeah, and most people find it doesn't usually last more than about a minute, or extreme case, like 2-3 minutes. So it's not like a 6-hour paralysis. But even a minute for somebody who doesn't know, they can be a bit freaky. You can't move your limbs, so that's why it's called sleep paralysis. Often the dream or... It's sort of almost like night terror. It's a bit of an altered state, not quite full visual dream. Is, as you said, of a hag or like a demon on our chest or an alien. I've seen different variations. A presence in the room, a face we can't see, kind of evil feeling, that kind of thing.
You know, I hear that a lot from people who go in to investigate alleged haunted houses and where there's a demonic presence. That there are times that they feel this. It seems to me to be part of the flight or fright, that they're at that point, they're convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that something is there, and they just get the hell out of wherever they are very fast. What is yeah, I mean, without the voice. Or even, I would imagine that if they believe it so much, they can actually create their own voice in their own head. But what is the physiology behind this?
Well, there's some strange cases. I just want to mention, I have my scientist alive and well, but there's some, I guess, anecdotal cases, not experiences I've personally had, that I find even outside of my realm. Example, a dreamer dreamt of a dream character. Okay, the person's in their dream. We can imagine safe in bed, physically asleep, etc. But in the dream, a dream character puts a cigarette and burns it into their palm. Which is not too pleasant a dream in the first case. But as they wake up, they actually have this red burn ring right in the middle of their physical palm in bed, which we can imagine, if they're telling the story, they didn't have before sleep, so it's not just like a body trauma dream or something. Something new occurred on the physical body. So I've heard a few anecdotes of lacerations or other. I think I've told on this show about the person who was a witch and burned at the stake, and the dreams they would have where they'd get all red and everything in bed. So there's some strange physiology. We could say some of it's probably a mind-body connection. The body responds to a very strong suggestion of the burn and creates a red ring or whatever it does. But sometimes I think we're tuning into something that may not be full dream, or at least that our physical senses can't perceive, but that has its own reality somewhere, let's say in the borderland state.
But where does the possibility of crossing dimensional realms when we go to sleep? A lot of people talk about out-of-body experiences where they're able to go from one dimension to the next. And then there are people that I've had on the show, Craig, who are convinced that when we are asleep and dream is actually our reality. And when we are what most people would consider to be awake in the everyday life is the dream state.
or just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I say, I have a shirt that says this, actually. I sometimes wear it when I want to be a little crazy. It says, life or waking state is really just one station on the dial. So don't change the station, because X Zone's an amazing show here.
Oh, my friend, you always say the nicest things.
I won a few points there.
Oh, yeah, you always do. You always do.
Because we're talking about really fascinating things, but what if you could, like, consciously shift your consciousness dial to, let's say, dreams, or waking state, or other states, too, bridging, and then have memory of it and use it practically. Like, there's people who definitely pick up physical location data from friends, distance. I've told 2 stories before, and I have different research even that shows, like, statistics of how much is possible and stuff. That it's not a perfect every time kind of thing, but in a certain state, let's say like in a certain weather system, we can fly a jet, and in certain weather we really don't want to. Same thing for consciousness. And they can tune their consciousness to different stations on the dial by will. It usually takes some practice for most people.
What about hypnosis? Does hypnosis fit into the dream psychology or the dream world, or is that something totally different?
Altered state again. Let's say a station slightly under our waking awareness, like the beta consciousness that you and I are talking in now, kind of logical, linear. So hypnosis puts into usually more alpha, if we have our eyes closed, especially alpha. That's like a lower brainwave frequency. That's why I'm saying alpha and beta. And then we can tune into, let's say, more subtle body sensations, maybe intuition, other sensory channels, extrasensory perception. You could say it's out of body if you're tuning into other states, but that sort of assumes that we end, or our consciousness or who our identity ends at our skin.
Hey, Craig, stand by, buddy. You and I have to take our final break. Always great talking to you. Exonation, Craig Webb is our special guest. And it's always a pleasure having Craig on the show. He's a good friend of the X-Zone. His website is applieddreaming.com. We'll all be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle.
reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com. And welcome back, everyone. Did you have a little snooze while we were on commercial break? Did you dream? What do you think that dream means that you had? Have you wondered the difference between a dream and reality? Well, this may not be what my guest Craig Webb would say, but in my book, the only difference between a dream and reality is making it happen. And Craig, it's always great having you here on the show. What are your final thoughts to the Exo Nation tonight about dreaming, and how can they, are there ways that they can program themselves better to remember their dreams?
Yeah, definitely dream recall there. That's kind of the doorway. You sort of have to get the data. The dreams have to be coming, and you have to remember them to start consciously accessing some of the info. So one thing I like to encourage, I like how you framed it as you kind of introed this segment. I like to also say not just what does the dream mean, but what does it want? And that can be a really good question. If people just keep it in their mind, it just puts your attention towards, what actions could I take to make this dream real and then serve other people in my life? Creative inspiration, maybe health, maybe guidance, maybe just my own peace of mind, whatever, but some action. So what does it want? That can really shift things. On the website dreams.ca, the nonprofit Dreams Foundation I direct, there's lots of great tips for recall, so check those out. And also for lucid dreaming, some good intro tips. And then when people want to really get into it and commit and make the real breakthroughs in their relationships, super income, creativity, or health, or some major spiritual breakthroughs, or pretty much every time, I offer more extended, like personal clients training or classes. Actually, in a group, we get lots of synergy, synchronicities, dreaming for each other all the time. So you'll see at craigwebb.ca or at applieddreaming.com, the website you gave out. People can learn about the ongoing teleclasses and hop on board. It's really great with a team of about 6 to 10 adventurers to really master lucid dreaming and then have a goal and see it manifest in a pretty amazing, surprising amount of time, like sometimes a day to weeks. Large goals. For example, one of the people took a couple of years for this one because they had a lot of relationship things and healing to work through with their father and past ex-husband, but is now super happily married. And I dreamt that I was, helping them into the limousine to their wedding. And it's through all the work in the class that they managed to come to that place to live their dream of a beautiful husband and a lot of the joy and children that came from that. So simple things for real people feels really good, and that's what people want. So that's what I try to offer and serve. So check out applieddreaming.com, and you can link through that same site to other dream tips and how to work with nightmares, how to end some of the recurring themes if you're chased or falling, or lots of things we talked about tonight. Some of the cool psi dreaming, sort of psychic or, let's say, out there, paranormal, X-zone kind of stuff is there too.
One quick question, Craig. I've got less than a minute before we have to say so long. Does what a person eat before they go to sleep help or hinder their dream state?
Well, it sort of depends what. Anything we imbibe physiologically affects our body. Of course, that's why we eat food, because it gives us energy.
Right.
It can certainly affect our emotional state, heavier foods, lighter, and it can affect our brain chemistry. Some things are known a little bit more than others. We mentioned before chocolate might keep you awake. Certain things like mothers know that infants' babies' milk can help with the tryptophan to put to sleep. So just watch your diet a little bit and make your own experiments.
Craig, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. Always a great pleasure talking to you, my good friend. And I look
Thanks,
very
Rob.
much forward to the next time you join us back here in the X Zone. So until then, take care of yourself.
Okay, and you too.
Happy dreams,
Take care,
Craig.
listeners.
Bye-bye now. Exonation, Craig West... Craig West is my producer. Craig Webb has been my guest this hour. www.applieddreaming.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. I'll be back after the news. Don't go away.